Welcome everybody to the very first episode of a brand new series here on the channel called NCAA Next Up. We will be closely watching the stars of tomorrow competing in the 2022 college football season here on NCAA 14, and those players will eventually be inserted into the draft classes of my Madden 23 franchise with the Tennessee Titans. This series is unlike anything that anybody has done on YouTube before, and it has taken me so much time to fully get it all set up, but I'm happy that we're finally able to start it here today. Make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new so you don't miss out on more of this series. I'm excited to get you guys involved with this as well. You'll be able to make players for the series in my Discord server. The link for that is in the description. You'll also be able to vote on things such as awards like the Heisman Trophy, the College Football Playoff, and even smaller things like where College Game Day is going to be each week. I'm really excited to follow the stories of all of these players whose careers we will closely be monitoring. College football has changed so much over the past few seasons with NIL affecting a lot of things on and off the field, along with conference realignment. Texas and Oklahoma, of course, now in the SEC. The Big Ten this offseason added USC and UCLA. The Big 12 lost their two strongest members, but they added a number of new schools as well. The Pac-12 lost the two Southern California schools, and maybe Oregon, amongst others, are next. The American Athletic Conference took a hit as well, and a number of other schools may be switching conferences in the coming years, such as Notre Dame. Today's episode will be spent previewing this season, and it's fitting that we're going to start in the SEC, who has 7 of the top 9 teams in the AP preseason top 25, including number 2 Oklahoma, led by head coach Owen "Hitstick" Jackson. The Sooners are one of the best teams on paper in college football. They had a little quarterback battle in the offseason, and it looks like senior Masaru Lee has won the job as the main starter. However, look out for his backup, Romeo Coloci, who is very talented as well. He's only a redshirt sophomore and could be the guy long-term, assuming he doesn't leave school early. But it doesn't really matter who they have at quarterback, because our Darion Graham, the running back, is the real star of this team. Graham opens up the season as the preseason favorite for the Heisman Trophy Award, and along with him, there are many other great skill position players on this offense. Just look at the wide receiving core led by senior Kayson Brouillette, who looks to be one of the top receivers off the board in this year's upcoming NFL Draft. Alongside him, they've got multiple other 90-plus receivers, including Bryce Berry III and Devon Hall. Defensively, they're very solid as well, led by senior linebacker Octavius Thatcher, who reminds me a lot of his head coach Owen Jackson, so it's fitting they're together. Along with the best linebacker in the country, they might have the best safety as well with senior Gabe Feldstead. Joining Oklahoma in the SEC this season is number 4 Texas, who projects to also be very good, led by head coach Tykeem Keon, a Texas alum. Just like Oklahoma, they had a quarterback battle of their own in the offseason, and it was redshirt sophomore Benedict Sparrow who won the job over senior Maddox Abney. Sparrow is a fantastic quarterback and has a lot of weapons around him on the offense. Amadeo Kalu and Asante Baker lead the backfield at running back, and at wide receiver, junior D'Aiden Washington might be the best receiver in college football, and he's going to be a first-round pick in a couple of years. Tyrese Barracon and Vashawn Kodali are also 90-plus at receiver. Dax Boss, also a very solid tight end. They might have the 2 best offensive guards in the country of Stephon Fingard and Daniel Forrest Smith. Their defense ain't too bad either. They've got I.T. Thomas, the junior safety, roaming the secondary as a ball-hawking center fielder. Josiah Wake enters the season as a preseason All-American, and along with him, they've got a number of other guys in the front, including McKenzie, Mortimer, and sophomore Babatunde Mamadou, who projects to be a great breakout candidate. Georgia is the number 1 team in the nation entering the season, led by head coach Delvin Hines. Georgia, of course, also in the SEC, led by senior quarterback Clyde Williamson, who might be the best quarterback in all of college football. He projects to be a first-round pick in next year's class, and he's got a lot of talent around him. Palamayo Malalu leads the backfield at running back, and they've got a great receiving core as well. It's super deep. It's super young. This team as a whole is really young. Their left tackle, Dejarius Roberson, he's a freshman and a 90 overall. Tykeem Rogers, 6'8", 280-pound sophomore at defensive end. And at linebacker, they've got 88 overall Grant Rambo, who is a true sophomore. This is not just maybe the best team in the country, but it's one of the youngest teams in the country as well. They've got a number of guys who are probably going to stick around for a few seasons, but they've also got some great veterans as well, such as Kenneth Scott, Daniel Truchon, Willie Brodeur, and Shad Swisher. Let's go to the big evil empire of college football, the number 5 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, led by head coach and former Philadelphia Eagles running back Tazwell Hubbard. Bama's not as good as they normally are, but they're still really good. Junior quarterback Bryson Byrne is a first-year starter at the position and a real breakout candidate for the Crimson Tide offense. They have a great true freshman as well behind him with Troy Davenport. They have a phenomenal backfield, and their receiving core might be the best in college football. Jaden Wilson Miller is a redshirt sophomore, and he is already one of the most explosive players in the country. Alongside him is true sophomore Khalil Hassan, who was the number 1 player in his high school class, and he backed that up as a true freshman, racking up nearly 1,000 yards on the season. Cooper Jensen's a great slot guy, and they've got some other young players like Appleby, Weaver. Emeka Uruzie is a phenomenal tight end. They've got great linemen on both sides of the ball as well, and they might have pound for pound the best cornerback duo in the league with Blue Jam and senior Marcus Moore, who as of now projects to be a first-round pick in this year's upcoming draft. Number 6, Auburn is right behind their arch rivals Alabama, led by head coach Zaire Wiggins. Wiggins is also an Auburn alum. As we look at this roster, they've got 2 superstars in the backfield, including junior quarterback Sidney McDonald, who opens up the season in 3rd place for the preseason Heisman watch. However, I don't think he's the best player in their backfield. Kiki Rodriguez III is a 99 overall running back. He is such an explosive player, and they have a great backup running back as well, one of the best tandems in the country, and they have maybe the best safety duo as well with Lamont Morgan and Caleb Ingram, who both complement each other's skill sets very, very well. As part of the SEC realignment, number 7 LSU moved from the SEC West to the SEC East. LSU is led by head coach Jabari Achabe, and they have a Heisman contender of their own at running back in senior Ronnie DeRugi, who is a fantastic player for the offense. DeRugi is going to have a super big role here. This is going to be a run-first team. He is currently in 5th on the Heisman watch. I am excited about their quarterback, though, redshirt freshman Thomas Toramenko. He's got a learning curve ahead of him, but I think he's in a position to where he doesn't have to carry the offense. That's going to be Ronnie DeRugi's role, and I think Toramenko can develop some more this year as a passer, and then next year he'll really take some leaps as the main guy, and they've got plenty of weapons for him to throw the ball to, including 5-star freshman Kyon Clark. The defense is really good as well, led by senior Jeremy Fenelon, who projects to be a 1st or 2nd round pick at linebacker in this upcoming NFL draft. He's joined by guys like Morales, C.J. Thomas Jr., and preseason All-American Marco Franklin is one of the best defenses in the country. Texas A&M is the 7th best team in the SEC, but they're number 9 overall, led by head coach Didi Santander, the former Metropolis running back. It's fitting that he was a running back, and his best player is a running back in Kayshawn McDaniels, who's really, really good. He's joined in the backfield by redshirt sophomore quarterback Luca Franco, who is an emerging star for the A&M offense. They've got a lot of young guys here, including a pair of freshman receivers with Quinn Crew and Benjamin Cannon. This is not a senior-dominated team, so I think if all of these guys stick around for another year or two, A&M can be very, very good in seasons 2 and 3 and beyond, depending on the development of guys like Kayshawn McDaniels and Luca Franco. Tennessee comes in as the 15th team in the nation, led by head coach Russell Ingram Jr. Since this is the Titans franchise, I guess Tennessee's the hometown team. Linebacker Chris Gentry is one of the best defensive players in the country. Super high character guy, and he's a big leader for this team because they're also really young. Redshirt sophomore Benjamin McKenzie is the new starting quarterback. I think he's going to be a really good NFL prospect, and he has developed quite well at Tennessee. He's got some really good players on the offense, including true freshman wide receiver Skeeter Darlington and senior running back Chris Johnson. They've got another really good true freshman receiver as well down the board with Zach Torres Jr. The final SEC team in the top 25 is number 25, South Carolina. The Gamecocks are led by South Carolina native Osiris Young as their head coach. They've got a really good passing attack led by redshirt sophomore quarterback Marco Prince, who started as a freshman and was honestly quite impressive. He's got a really good arm. He's got a lot of talented receivers on his offense, including possible first-round pick Bryson Smith, who was phenomenal as a junior for the Gamecocks and looks to be even better this year. Alongside him, they have another talented senior in Letty Amon, who I also think is NFL caliber. They have a solid young defense as well as we go to the Missouri Tigers, who are the 26th ranked team in the poll, led by head coach Cortez Forn. The Tigers have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in redshirt senior Shiloh McDuff. He is a rock in the pocket. He's not athletic at all. He's not overly mobile, but he has got a phenomenal arm, and he's got a great weapon with tight end Masio Calciano leading the way. Missouri has a pretty good offensive line. They have one of the best centers in the country of Jericho Cruzada. As we go to the Florida Gators, who are the 11th projected team in the SEC. But don't get it twisted. They will not finish in 11th. This team is way too talented, led by head coach Khalil Onobanjo. They're led by junior quarterback Genesis Moon, who's really well-rounded. If he can be a little bit more consistent, I think he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. They've got a great backfield led by junior running back Elijah Bryant, who I think is going to be a major breakout candidate. And they've got a few really good players behind him with Todrick Suggs and Milan Jushian. Wide receiver, they're led by the dynamic duo of Deontay Perkins and Louis Diamantildis, and their offensive line might be the best in the country, led by center Gianluigi Miadriano. They've got a great defense as well. They've got maybe the best linebacking core in the country with Roman Benson, Neville Franklin, and Cyrus Okpoko Jr., who's a 97 overall. He reminds me a lot of a player I really liked a few years ago coming out of college, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. The Arkansas Razorbacks are up next. They are led by senior quarterback Jackson Kayuma, who I think is a really well-rounded player. He's mobile, he's athletic, and he's got a good arm. Arkansas last year started the season in the preseason top 5. They disappointed, so they don't have as much expectations, which I think could actually benefit them for this upcoming season. After Arkansas, the next team on the list here is Mississippi State. We're not going through every team, by the way, but everybody in the SEC is really relevant. They're led by head coach Richard Rivers Jr., and at quarterback, it'll be junior DeAndre Smith leading the way. Smith is a really talented player, and behind him, they have one of the best true freshmen with Wynn Quinton. Junior running back Malik Brunswick is one of the most explosive offensive players in the SEC, and they have a really talented receiving core as well, led by junior Romeo Gardner, who I think is going to really emerge as a great number 1 receiver here for the Mississippi State Bulldogs and outplay his 87 overall rating. Despite the fact that the Bulldogs are projected to finish 13th in the conference, I think they're still really, really solid. Ole Miss is projected at 14th, but they're a 95 overall, led by Ole Miss alum Edmund Orient. They've got some of the best offensive skill position players in the country. DeMarvin Collier, 98 overall at running back. He is a beast. Zaire Patton is the highest rated wide receiver in the country at a 97 overall. Skylar Clark is also really good. And oh yeah, their offensive line is unbelievably good. They have a young quarterback in Danny Kendrickson who's got a little bit of work to do, but he has maybe a better supporting cast than any QB in the country, and hopefully he capitalizes. Kentucky is ranked 15 in the conference, but I still think this team is really, really good. Defensive end Jair Savage is the highest-rated defensive lineman in all of college football, the son of former Eagle legend Zaire Savage. Isaiah Gordon is a very talented quarterback. There are some character concerns with him, but he's a really talented player. And Benny Dixon out of the backfield is a phenomenal running back as well. Olham, the senior receiver, is very talented as well. This Kentucky team is really, really good. Vanderbilt is the only team we didn't go over. Again, I'm not going over the not as relevant teams. The SEC just happens to have everybody really good. I'm expecting the ACC to be the second best conference in the country this year, led by the number 3 ranked Clemson Tigers, led by head coach and former Philadelphia Eagle Malachi Madison. They are led by 99 overall quarterback Cade Hutchinson, who has been deemed the chosen one. Hutchinson projects as the number 1 overall pick whenever he declares for the draft. He is second in the Heisman race, and having a coach like Malachi Madison, a former quarterback, coaching him is going to be really great. Running back Kobe Henderson is one of the top backs in the ACC, and those are not the only 2 weapons on this offense. Senior receiver John Vincent II is very, very talented. Clarence Washington, Xavier Mayo, and Kion Cordell are all also really good, and they've got a very talented defense as well. They've also got a great offensive line. This is the best team not in the SEC, and assuming all of those SEC teams kind of kill each other by always playing against each other, I think that bodes well for a team like Clemson. Defensively, they're led by junior cornerback Markeith Brown. They have the transfer coming in, Zaire Olham out of Oregon. He won't be eligible to play this year, but he's going to be really good down the line. Although I definitely view Clemson as the favorites to win this conference, don't get it twisted. The ACC is really good. They've got 5 other teams in the top 25, including number 11 Pitt, led by former Pittsburgh Steeler Carter Westwood. At quarterback, they've got senior Jonah Mulawire, who looks to be a possible first or second round pick in this year's upcoming draft. Senior running back Avion Dillard leads the ground game in the backfield. This is a chance to be a really good offense. They've got a great offensive line, and they've got some really good defensive linemen as well. Pittsburgh's going to be really good in the trenches this year, which will be very, very important here in the ACC. Right behind them is the number 12th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels, led by former Panther head coach Lou Burt's-Roy. The Tar Heels are led by 99 overall senior running back Igby Prince, who is going to be the engine of this offense. He's a phenomenal player and looks to be maybe the top running back off the board in this year's draft. They've got a really young passing attack. Redshirt sophomore Graham Fisher, I think, is really going to improve this season as a major breakout candidate. Rambo Lumpkins is a machine. He's 6'4", he's super fast. He is an absolute unicorn of a wide receiver position and a player who I think is really going to emerge for this offense. Shamir Kaysen and Obadiah Jackson are really good at receiver as well. And they also have the best special teams in the country as well, with one of the highest rated kickers and punters in all of college football. Right behind them in the rankings is number 13, Florida State. The Seminoles are a very young team led by former Seminole quarterback Tez Lawson. Their junior running back, Brody Kluby, is a big play waiting to happen. He has 98 speed and is a total freak show at the running back position. Sophomore quarterback Jacob King saw some playing time last year as a freshman, and he showed a lot of flashes. I think he's really going to improve. They've got a great defense led by senior linebacker Duck Chambers and junior linebacker Ebenezer Rawson. The Miami Hurricanes come in as the 17th ranked team in the nation, led by former Dolphin quarterback Greg Waters-Key. Miami is a really talented team led by sophomore quarterback Scooter Young Jr. This is his first year as a starter, and I think having a guy like Waters-Key as his head coach will really do him well. Miami's got a lot of fun pieces on the offense, including a great receiving core. Senior Rico Ricard is very, very talented. Junior Michael Starks Jr. is going to be really good. Sophomore E.J. Twyman is a player I'm really expecting to break out. And they've got really good depth here as well with Miami Thomas and Johnny Morgan. This might be pound for pound the best receiving group in the country. They've also got one of the best offensive lines in the country as well, and their defense ain't no slouch either. The other ACC team in the top 25 is number 22, Syracuse. They are led by head coach Stephen Westwood, who had the privilege of coaching Heisman contending quarterback Romano Fargnoli, who is currently in 4th for the preseason Heisman watch. Fargnoli is only a junior, and I think he's really going to improve. He's got a great tandem partner in the backfield with Afewerk Chike, who is one of the few players in this series who has 99 speed right off the bat. The Louisville Cardinals are right behind them. They've got a really young team led by former Louisville alum Lawrence Parnell. They have a very talented freshman quarterback in Prince Parks, who is super mobile. He's got a great arm and is going to be a very good player at the next level. I think he will really depend on senior receiver Matt Levine, who is one of the most underrated players in college football, and I think he's got a great shot of being a first-round pick when it's all said and done. The team to watch as a sleeper team in the ACC is the Duke Blue Devils, led by head coach Keith Fleming. Duke is projected to finish last, but they are actually going to be quite good in my opinion. Sophomore quarterback Justin Tucker has a cannon of an arm. He is a great passer and somebody who I think is really going to burst onto the scene this year. Running back Ray Demerit is also very, very good. He's a super talented senior, and he's got a great tandem partner with him in Ajax Blackwell. Let's move on to the Big Ten, who made headlines this offseason by adding UCLA and USC, and they've been rumored to add more teams like Notre Dame and Oregon. As it stands now, the number 8 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions, led by head coach Josh Jordan Jr., are the early favorites to win the conference. They're led by senior quarterback Bryce Evans. Although Evans is the veteran of the offense, this is a really young group, and these guys are really going to grow together, I think. Sophomore running back Aaron Robinson is in line to be the main ball carrier. He's a bruising, physical back who I think defensive players are not going to like going against. Shai Jones-Porter was one of the best freshmen in college football last year. He was a 5-star recruit a season ago and lived up to the hype as a starter last season. Carter Neely and Comet Rudolph are also really good sophomores. And then defensive lineman Musa Adiwar projects to be a possible first-round pick in this year's upcoming draft, leading the Nittany Lion defense. Hamilton Paxton, Jack Jones, Jack Ace and Raymond Foster Hess lead one of the best defenses in the conference. Right behind them is the number 10 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, who are not as good as they usually are, but they're still really solid, led by Toledo alum Casey Schock as their head coach. The Buckeyes have a really interesting roster. I think they're more of a defensive-oriented team. They've got some talent at quarterback. It'll be junior Margot Brunley, who is the starter here. For what it's worth, Ohio State has more depth at quarterback than any team in the country. They've got a great 1-2 tandem in the backfield with Emmanuel Cashmere and Mookie Davis. Cashmere is going to get a bulk of the carries this year, but Mookie Davis is the name to watch as a redshirt freshman. I think he's got a real opportunity to be one of the best offensive players in the Big Ten in a couple years. The defense is led by senior linebacker Bernardino Balboa, and they've got a great cornerback duo as well. Jameer Jefferson is the type of guy you can put on an island. Alongside him, they have senior ball hawk Ozzie Duvernay, who is kind of the opposite. He takes a little bit more gambles in coverage. He loses a few more reps, but he also is a turnover machine, intercepting 5 passes a year ago for the Buckeyes. Next up on the list, we have the number 14th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes, who are never always a true contender, but they're always really, really good. And that's always the thing with Iowa, led by head coach Isaiah Thomas III. This is an old-school football team, which just screams Iowa. They're led by senior quarterback Terry Vilza, who has more protection behind him than a pair of parents who are not looking to get children. This offensive lineman is the best in the country, led by offensive tackle Sebastian Cross, who is an elite blindside blocker. Center Al Ravenwood III might be the best player at his position in the entire country. And right guard Apollo Gates is also really, really good. And he's only a true junior, so he might stick around for another year as well. This is one of the more older and experienced teams in the country, and they also have a very solid defense as well. A team on the rise in the Big Ten is the Purdue Boilermakers, who are currently ranked number 18, led by head coach Anthony Cortez III, who has been lauded as one of the best coaches in the country. Offensive tackle Noshawn Kimboyle opens up the season as a projected top 10 pick. This guy is a freaking monster, and he's going to give quarterback Asher Pattinson all the time in the world to throw. Pattinson's only a sophomore, and I'm really excited to see his development. Ciriaco Troncoso leads the backfield, and they have maybe the best secondary in the country. Senior cornerback Jalen Matthews III also looks to be a possible first-round pick as a preseason All-American, and they've got 4 other defensive back starters who are at least an 86 overall. Behind them, we had the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who start the season as the 19th team in the country, led by head coach and former Ohio State alum Nehemiah Richardson. Minnesota should not be 19th at all. You know why? In this universe, they are the defending national champions, which is kind of weird. They lost a lot of their key seniors from a season ago, including their quarterback, who they will be replacing with senior Mason Sweeney, who is a very, very talented stopgap guy. I think there's a little bit more excitement about their freshman, Kane Thompson, who's going to be the guy next year. Although they don't have many key seniors back, one of the guys from last year's national championship team returning is running back Rocket Reddick, who is an absolute playmaker out of the backfield. He's a player who I think is going to be really fun for the defending champion Golden Gopher offense. The Michigan Wolverines coming as the 21st ranked team in the nation, led by Michigan alum Rashawn Babineau. This is a really, really talented team led by junior quarterback Bartholomew Blunt, who probably wins the award for best name in the country, and he's got a lot of guys to help him out on offense. Senior running back Charles Wiggins is a really, really good player, and behind him, they already have his replacement with redshirt freshman Casey Aceron. The receiving corps might be the best in college football. Senior Hollis Francois looks to be a possible first or second round pick, and alongside him, they have the 6'5" T.K. Thomas, who is really, really good, and they've got a lot of depth here at receiver as well. Thomas Scott will be the main guy in the slot this year. Their defense is also really solid, led by the man in the middle, Matthew Allen, a defensive tackle who was maybe the best run stopper in the country. The final Big Ten team in the top 25 is Wisconsin, who's number 24, led by Wisconsin alum Xander Vanderwalt. At quarterback, they have senior Torin Kluterman, who's a very talented player. But as you know, Wisconsin's a team who really focuses on running the football, and I think senior running back Garrett Zeck will really be able to represent that. He's 6 foot, 245 pounds. He's a big dude. Next up, we have the 2 new teams in the conference. UCLA has far more expectations than USC to perform this season, led by UCLA alum CJ Thomas. At quarterback, they have senior Freddie Ham, who is a veteran. He's more of a game manager, but he is a very efficient passer. UCLA fans have to be excited, however, about true freshman Jason Tatum. Their defense is really good, led by sophomore pass rusher Sherrod Harris, 6'8", 271 pounds. He's a phenomenal player who I think will be a first-round pick eventually. And cornerback Scott Hendricks might be the fastest player in college football. Unlike their rivals UCLA, the USC Trojans are not supposed to do well this season. They're 94th in the country opening the season. The only teams projected to finish worse than them in the Big Ten are Northwestern and Maryland. However, former USC tight end Michano Yamaguchi is going to hope to right the ship. Center Christian Frinton Smith is one of the best players at his position in the country. Sophomore quarterback Scotty Kimbrell is a major breakout candidate at the position, and he's got some great players alongside him on the offense. Senior running back Patrick Daw-Friend has shades of Christian McCaffrey in his game, and sophomore wide receiver Hot Rod Pryor looks to be a major breakout candidate. Pryor was a 5-star recruit a year ago, had a very bad freshman season, but really everything about this team was bad last year. They only won one game. I think USC is going to surprise a lot of people in the Big Ten and have a much better season than people expect. Some other teams to look out for in this conference include Indiana, led by head coach Shanarian Budga. They have a young sophomore quarterback in Kennedy Newsford, who might be the best left-handed quarterback in the country. He's a very small quarterback, only 5'11", 188, but he's got a lot of talented players on the offense with him, including senior running back Peyton Houston. Senior linebacker Jermaine Hicks leads a very formidable defense. Hicks hopes to be a first or second round pick in this upcoming draft. I think the Rutgers Scarlet Knights could be a pretty big sleeper as well, led by former Jets running back Matt Miller. They've got one of the most explosive players in college football in junior running back Dior Antoine, who is a 99 overall. He is a human highlight film, and he makes Rutgers box office television each week. Senior quarterback Johannes Franz is also very talented as well, hoping to lead the offense to exceed expectations. Michigan State is a team who I also expect to exceed expectations. Former Michigan State quarterback Koko Nwosu is on the hot seat as the head coach, so this team needs to do well for him to keep his job. Senior quarterback Nathan Bruins hopes to right the ship for the Spartans. He's only 160 pounds. He's skinny, but don't worry, they've got a great running back alongside him with junior Joshua Calico, who I think is one of the best running backs in the country. The Big Ten will be looking to add some teams in the future, specifically the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, led by former Heisman-winning running back Alex Ellis. The Fighting Irish are led by senior center Keelan Aliu-Jones, who as a 99 overall is the highest-rated offensive lineman in the country. He will look to give senior quarterback Sosa Hupy plenty of time to throw in the pocket. Hupy's a little bit inconsistent, but I think he's going to have a really big senior season, and he's, as of now, probably projected to be the third or fourth quarterback off the board in this year's upcoming draft. They also have the best backup QB in the country with senior Billy Joe Cumberland. Running back Nate Washington is also very talented, not to be mistaken with the former Tennessee Titans receiver, who also has the same name. As you all know, Notre Dame always has a great offensive line year in and year out, and their defense is very solid as well, led by senior linebacker Raymar Beckett. Let's move on to the Big 12, who is hurting with the loss of Texas and Oklahoma. They only have one team ranked in the top 25, and that is the Baylor Bears, led by head coach Cole Spencer. The Baylor Bears have a talented group led by senior defensive tackle Pete Peters, and at quarterback, I'm really excited to see what redshirt freshman Forrest Holloway can do. He's got one of the best arms in the country and looks to be a big piece for the Bears, who are the favorites to win this conference by a pretty wide margin. Behind Baylor, the next highest ranked team is West Virginia, who opens up the season ranked as the 28th team in the preseason polls. The Mountaineers are a pretty talented group led by junior quarterback Jose Alvaro. I think he's going to really break out this season. He's been a little bit inconsistent for the Mountaineers, but I think he's a really talented player, and he has, in my opinion, the best tight end in the country with Leighton Simpson, who possibly will be a first-round pick in next year's draft. The Big 12 added 4 new schools into the fold this past offseason, including the BYU Cougars, who are projected to finish the highest among all of those new schools. BYU is led by a talented tandem in the backfield, including Johnny Walker, one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the country. He's got to improve as a passer, but he's a phenomenal runner. And senior running back Baloo Burns is a really, really good player. Big 12 defenses are already not that good, and Burns is going to make them look even worse. Right behind them are the UCF Knights, coming from the American Athletic Conference. They start the season as the 45th ranked team in the country, led by senior quarterback Bay Morant, who looks to have a big season this year for the Knights. He has a lot to prove. He had a down junior season after really showing a lot of flashes early on in his career. I think with a full offseason under his belt, I think he's really going to improve this season for the Knights as they look to have a strong first season as a member of the Big 12. I think Houston's a really similar team to UCF, also coming from the American Athletic. They're led by former Westlake defensive tackle QJ Casimir, and their best player is junior quarterback Kane Sanders. He's listed as a scrambler, but he doesn't have the most athletic stats. He's not the best at getting out of the pocket, but he does have a really, really good arm, and I think he'll be one of the best passers in the conference. Cincinnati's projected to finish second to last in the Big 12, and I don't buy it. I think they're actually quite good, led by head coach Zaire Savage. They've got his son, Zaire Savage II, along with a number of other talented players, including sophomore quarterback Seth Maddox, who won the starting job this season over the redshirt freshman Xander Vanderwall Jr. Out of the backfield, Harrison Anderson is a major breakout candidate, in my opinion. I think he's going to have a huge junior season for the Bearcats. They've got a talented senior receiver in Mikhail Ulgrich, and their defense is really solid, led by the son of Zaire Savage II, a defensive tackle. 95 overall, one of the highest rated players in position. He has a lot of similarities to his father. He's a great pass rusher, good in the run game as well, and he is joined by his brother, Justin Savage, at linebacker, along with a talented corner in Deuce Johnson. A sleeper team in the Big 12 is Oklahoma State. I think they're really going to outperform their ranking, led by former Westlake wide receiver Nigel Wiggins. They are led by sophomore defensive end Yusuf Aluwolu, who is one of the most freakiest athletic players in the country. Sophomore quarterback Jorgensen Jupiter is also a major breakout candidate as well. He showed a lot of flashes as a freshman, and I think he's going to be really good this season. As for Oluwolu, I think he's really going to break out in a major way as well. I think the Cowboys are going to really exceed expectations and look to win 8 or 9 games this year. As we go into the Pac-12, the only Pac-12 team ranked this year is Cal. They start the year as the 23rd ranked team in the country. They had a QB battle of their own between Brennan Leach and 5-star freshman Rufus Motley. Leach won the job, but I don't really think it matters who's a quarterback because they are a run-first team. Senior running backs Marquette Collins and Anthony Mazzeo are one of the best running back duos in the nation. They are both unbelievably talented, and I think Cal is going to run the ball down teams' throats this year. Suk Deo Toussaint at defensive tackle is one of the best run stoppers in the country, and if he shows more flashes as a pass rusher, he could be a first-round pick. The Oregon Ducks are a sleeping giant in the Pac-12, in my opinion. They're projected to finish second, but they are my pick to win the conference, led by head coach Jaquavius Highsmith. The Ducks are one of the highest-rated teams in the entire country, led by sophomore quarterback Barrett Cherokee. He's in his first year as a starter, hasn't gotten a ton of snaps, but I think he's going to turn some heads and be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. He has a phenomenal receiving corps led by wide receiver Tyler Royal, who opens up the season, in my opinion, as the likely top receiver off the board in this year's class. Redshirt freshman Justice Everdeed is a very good player as well. They have a great amount of depth at receiver, and their defense is really solid as well. Senior safety Alex Weldy is a ball hawk in the backfield and looks to be one of the top safeties off the board in this year's class, despite being quite small at only 5'9" and 170 pounds. Watch out for the Ducks to completely exceed their preseason ranking. The other team to watch in the Pac-12 this year is the Arizona Wildcats. They are led by the dynamic duo of Scotty Pickens and Kareem Kamara. Kamara is a super talented quarterback who's got more arm talent than anybody in the conference. And Scotty Pickens has a real opportunity to be a first-round pick. He had nearly 1,500 yards a season ago and looks to be even better this year as a senior. Let's show the Group 5 conferences some love. The Navy Midshipmen are the favorites to win the American Athletic Conference, led by head coach Ron Roberson, the former Metropolis quarterback. The other former Metropolis quarterback, Manuel Castillo, is the head coach of Army, fittingly. Maxwell Martindale is the starting quarterback this year for the Midshipmen. He's a talented senior who's obviously a great runner of the football. You always know Navy loves their option offense. The Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders are the favorites to win the Conference USA this season. Middle Tennessee State comes in as the 41st ranked team in the nation, led by a dynamic duo of their own. Junior wide receiver Nehemiah Dalton Jr. is really, really good, and senior quarterback Cedric Woods is also very, very talented as well. He's got a phenomenal arm. The Mountain West is led by Fresno State, the only non-Power 5 team to open up the season in the top 25. They are led by head coach John Cummings, who definitely has not dropped the ball as the head coach here at Fresno State. Senior running back Alec Bostic will lead the offense, and he's going to be heavily dependent on with a new true freshman quarterback in Jebediah Musket, who has high expectations this year for the Bulldogs. In my opinion, the Mountain West is the most talented Group 5 conference this year, so although Fresno State's really good, they've got to watch their backs. But Bowling Green Falcons are the favorite to win the MAC. They have a new quarterback of their own in senior Douglas Traynald. He's only a 75 overall, so I think they're really going to depend on true freshman running back Micah McDuffie, who got scholarship offers to big-time Power 5 schools, but decided to go to Bowling Green so he could be a starter right away. The last team we're going to talk about today is the favorite in the Sun Belt Conference, the South Alabama Jaguars, who open up the season as the 59th ranked team in the country. They have, in my opinion, the best non-Power 5 quarterback in the nation with senior Kedrick Brown, who I think is really talented. He's not the most mobile, but he's got a really solid arm, and he can get out of the pocket if needed. Senior cornerback Cardell Simpson opens up the season as a preseason All-American. He led the FBS last year with 13 interceptions. Yes, you heard me right. He picked off 13 passes. He's pretty much the Trayvon Diggs of college football. Let's take a look at the preseason All-American teams before we wrap up today's episode. I know all of this was a lot of information to take in. We went over nearly 50 teams, I think, and we went over a bunch of players on all of those teams. I'm really excited to follow the early stages of this season and see which of these teams who are highly ranked are legit. I think some of those teams in the teens are really going to have a good opportunity to rise up with 7 of the top 9 teams of the SEC. You've got to assume by the end of the season that 3 or 4 of those teams are really going to underperform because they're constantly playing against good opponents. These big-time SEC matchups are going to start right away. Number 7 LSU faces off against number 4 Texas in Week 1. That's definitely going to be the college game day game of the week for Week 1. In most episodes, we're likely to go over 3 to 4 weeks, and we're going to go over a bunch of games each week. It's going to be formatted kind of like a highlight TV show. And each game's only going to have like its own minute segment, but we're going to go over a lot of games each episode. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited for you guys to see this series. I cannot wait to get it on the ground rolling. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.